Are we ever going to go back to our original intro song? Yeah, we will, eventually. Next month, all right? But this month, it's back to our favorite themed month that we do. It's Serial Killer September. And so we've got 5 Mondays this month. So you get 5 episodes in a row on serial killers. I previewed them last week. I don't feel like doing it. Whatever. We got, next 2 weeks, we're going to have some serial killer samplers, just, 3 stories of some serial killers from history. But then to close out the month, I'm going to tell you the story of Israel Keyes, little lesser known, but could have been the most prolific and scariest dude of all time if he had been able to get through his master plan. And then we're going to end the month with the story of Robert Ben Rhodes, who is buckle up for that one. It's gross. And then this week, though, you already saw the title, but we're looking at some serial killers from South Africa. Just a real interesting place. A lot of native black folk there, but also a lot of Dutch and, Anglican colonizers over there. And so obviously apartheid, what's his face? Nelson Mandela. I forgot Nelson Mandela's name for a second. All that stuff going on over there. And, like every other country, they got a lot of serial killers. And so we have 4 today. Not going to lie. I feel confident I know the race of at least 3 of them. All right. The 4th one, I don't know. But we're looking at the stories of Moses Sithole, Cecilia Steyn, Richard Nyauza, and our first story will be of Elifasi Msomi.
Story time. Story time. Story time? Story time.
I feel like I need to explain that comment I just made about I know the race of these people. Because I feel like you think Africa, black people, right? But you think serial killer, you think white guy. That's just, and statistically, you'd be right to think that because most serial killers in history have been white dudes. I don't know, man. Our first story of Elifasi Msomi, I'm pretty sure he's a black guy. So already breaking stereotypes here, which is great. He was a member of the Zulu tribe in South Africa, and they are black. So 1 for 1 guessing on, because here's the thing. I could very have easily just gone back through the notes. I could have done a Google search of what these people look like. I didn't do it because I write these stories. They go into my books that no one reads, and then I just pull them out for these themed episodes, and that's that. So, I'm on this little journey with you. So, Elifasi Msomi, he was, like I said, member of the Zulu tribe in South Africa, and he wanted nothing more in life than to be a Sangoma, which is basically like a witch doctor in Zulu culture. But when he kept failing the Sangoma test or whatever it was he needed to do in order to achieve his dreams, he sought out professional help from other Sangomas in the area. I don't know why he didn't just start there. I would have been under the impression that that's who you go to ultimately become a Sangoma. Again, these are African tribes. They do things very differently than the whites do in order to obtain their advanced degrees and certifications. I don't know, man. During one exchange with another Sangoma in August of 1953, Msomi was possessed by an evil spirit known by the Zulu as a Tokoloshi, and that Tokoloshi instructed him to start murdering everybody over the next 18 months. And so Msomi started by raping and murdering a girl in front of his mistress, which is a ballsy move, but, when you're possessed, you can't control it. He then drained this girl's blood and kept it in a bottle. Ew. Msomi's mistress was not impressed by any of this and called the police, but thanks to Msomi's new Tokoloshi powers, he easily escaped prison and killed 5 more kids before he got arrested again. But Msomi escaped prison for a second time because Tokoloshis are really difficult to keep locked up. And also, I can't imagine African prisons are like the gold standard of security. He was arrested a month later for theft, but police quickly learned that the stolen items belonged to people Msomi had already killed. Figuring that he was done for at this point, Msomi then just began leading police to other bodies of people that he had killed that people didn't realize he had killed. While Msomi insisted, though, that he hadn't actually killed anyone but was under the Tokoloshi's influence, psychologists who examined him disagreed and asserted that Msomi was actually much smarter than most of his fellow Zulu tribe members. He was sentenced to hanging at the Pretoria Central Prison, and to make sure Msomi wasn't lying, though, the judge in the case invited 9 Zulu chiefs and elders to the hanging to make sure that this alleged Tokoloshi didn't somehow save Msomi from dying. And here's what's crazy. Much to everyone's shock, all right, the execution day is happening. He's there up on the gallows here in 1953. To everyone's complete shock, just as the executioner dropped the trap door to let Msomi hang, the Tokoloshi burst from inside of Msomi and shredded the noose 2 threads, which then allowed Msomi to break free and run off out into the savannah in Southern, where he just continued to keep murdering people until the Zulus basically had to, I don't know if that sounded, what is a group of Zulus called? Just Zulus, right? I don't know. For some reason that felt racist to say it like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a super sensitive white. But a group of Zulus, a gaggle of Zulus, a herd of Zulus, I don't know. They had to band together to form a posse where they then hunted Msomi down. Do you still believe this story that I'm telling you? It's not true, but I'm going to keep going with it. They hunted him down. Whatever. It's not even important. I was going to say they killed him with spears that had been dipped in elephant's blood or something. I don't know. It's just, it got pandering there for a second. Anyway, none of that thing I said was true. He was hanged. Because Tokoloshis aren't real. One Zulu chief, however, did voice some concerns that Msomi might come back as a Tokoloshi demon thing himself and possess someone else to keep the murdering going. I don't think it ever happened. I mean, it could have, because it could have happened to the next guy in our series here, Moses Sithole, who was born on November 17th, 1964 in Vosloorus, South Africa. I don't know where that is. It's in South Africa somewhere. But maybe Elifasi Msomi's little Tokoloshi spirit possessed Moses Sithole. And I got to be real careful. All right, because his last name is spelled Sithole. So I want to say Sithole, but then I also want to add another H in there. And I know that's not right, but it's so tempting. My point is Elifasi Msomi, his little Tokoloshi spirit could have possessed little baby Moses because he was born in 1964, over a decade after Msomi was hanged. So I don't know. It's possible. It's unconfirmed. It's probably not true. Moses' father died when he was 5 years old, when Moses was 5. That'd be weird if Moses' father died when he was 5 years old, but somehow gave birth to Moses before that. That'd be crazy. A little 5-year-old daddy. Weird. Moses' mother abandoned the family shortly thereafter, leaving Moses and his siblings in an orphanage. Sometime during his teenage years, Moses was arrested for rape, Tokoloshi, and spent several years in prison. While there, he decided that his purpose in life was to kill a lot of people, mostly women, and specifically women who looked like the ones who had accused him of rape and sent him to prison in the first place. So we're very misguided right out of the gate. It's just like, I'm so mad at women. I'm so mad at women that look like Janice, who accused me of rape. I didn't rape Janice. Did I stick my wiener in her while she was screaming? No. Maybe, but that's not rape. That's just pretty hot. Anyway. I don't know why a South African sounds like a surfer bro, but whatever. That's what I did. I wasn't comfortable. Here's the thing, guys. I don't really have an African accent because there's so many different. Like I could be real racist and just go. That's not okay. That's not okay. All right. I'm here to say that maybe that crosses a line. So I'm really sleepy, you guys. I think that's why this episode, at least to me, feels out of control already. I don't know how we're already on story number 2. I don't even really remember telling you the first one. But we're going to keep going. And I'm probably going to say some outrageous things, as always. So my point is, like, I don't have an African accent. So, like...
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, it's Alex Kajitani
and Paul Richmond
from the Education News Comedy Quiz podcast called Some of the Above.
Each month, Alex and I invite you to play along with 2 special guest contestants from the world of education as we ask questions about the latest school news.
If you want to laugh while you learn and learn while you laugh, this is the show for you.
So listen to the Education News Comedy Quiz now, because truly, this podcast will change your life.
You'll sleep better, your food will taste better, and you'll probably get promoted at work.
Like, I could do Jamaican or like Caribbean, but that's not African. Yeah, they're African descent, but it's different probably. Anyway, he's mad at Janice or whatever her name was for accusing him of rape and sending him to prison. So he makes it his life mission to murder any woman who even remotely reminds him of that selfish whore who was asking for it, but then got him sent to prison anyway. When he left prison, he founded Youth Against Human Abuse, which was this nonprofit company devoted to eliminating child abuse. And that's not a misdirect. Like, he actually did that, which makes no sense, knowing what we know about him and what he ultimately wanted to do. Also, the problem was that Youth Against Human Abuse didn't actually exist. It was just a front for Moses to make money off of random donations, which then just allowed him to start killing people. Attaboy. He began in the town of Atteridgeville before moving to Boxburg and then Cleveland, which was not Ohio, but a suburb of Johannesburg. By 1995, Moses had killed over 30 women and created a nationwide panic, mainly because he liked to call his victims' families and taunt them over their dead loved ones, which is such a dick move. You know, it's just like, hello? Yeah, dude. Like, I killed your daughter, or I killed your mom, or I killed your wife, and because she, like, did she do anything wrong? No, not really, but, like, she kind of looked like Janice, this one chick I knew one time who got me sent to prison, and, like, it's not cool, dude. It's not cool. So, I hate that voice so much. Why are you still listening to this? Turn it off. This isn't getting any better. I say this like at least every other episode. I should stop and just delete all of this, start over, maybe even just come back tomorrow after I've taken a good night's sleep and try again and but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. We're going to push through this, and I'm going to tell you these stories about these people you really don't even care about. Again, why are you listening? Stop. Go turn on a better podcast. Anyway, he starts this nonprofit because there's all kinds of nonprofits in Africa already. So that's easy to do. It's easy to just get people to donate to it because people are always trying to donate to nonprofits in Africa. And so he's just making all this money, which is funding his murder sprees, that once he goes and kills people, he calls their families and laughs at them because they're grieving now. And so he creates this nationwide panic. And the situation became so dire that Nelson Mandela actually made a special trip to Boksburg to appeal for public assistance in finding this killer, because they didn't know who it was. He's just anonymously calling all these families and laughing at them. In most instances, Moses would meet women under the guise of interviewing for Youth Against Human Abuse before taking them out to a field and beating, raping, and murdering them. In August of 1995, Moses was identified by one of his victims' families as one of the last people that their loved one had been seen with. However, Moses fled before the South African police system could track him down. 2 months later, Moses called journalist Tamsin De Beer, confessed to the killings, and claimed as many as 76 murders, which was actually more than double the number that media outlets had been reporting. And to prove that he was the guy behind all of these killings, he gave specific instructions and directions to where one of the bodies was buried. A few days later, police then found Moses in Johannesburg. He tried to attack officers with a hatchet and quickly learned that a police officer's gun is going to win that fight 100 times out of 100, right? Like, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. That's a classic quote. But Moses did. He brought a hatchet to a gunfight. Still, same effect, doesn't work. While in the hospital getting treatment for his gunshot wound, it was discovered that he was also HIV positive, which, that's in Africa. It's not that surprising. Moses was eventually sentenced to 50 years for each of the 38 murders he was officially charged with. He was also sentenced to 12 years for each of the 40 rapes that he was found convicted of or found guilty of, and 5 years each for 6 different robberies that he committed. The sentences were ordered to be run consecutively, which gave him a total of 2,410 years in prison, on the off chance that he actually was possessed by Msomi's Tokoloshi and was somehow immortal. Just for fun, Judge David Carstairs required that Moses serve 930 years before being eligible for parole. Why? Like, you're just creating unnecessary paperwork at that point. Either way, as of this publication, Moses is incarcerated at the Mangwang Correctional Center in Bloemfontein, somewhere in South Africa. Moving on to January of 2002, when 32-year-old Richard Nyauza learned that a woman he had been sleeping with had infected him with HIV. At that point, Nyauza decided that all women deserve to die. Now, do I think this is a bit of an overreaction? Yes. If he had instead thought, oh, this woman who infected me with HIV didn't tell me, did she deserve to die? Hang on, let's find out first. Did she know that she had HIV before she gave it to me? If she did, yes, absolutely. Dead. On the spot, right? Like, I think we can all agree on that. Maybe not. A lot of you were soft out there. But here's the thing, man. Like, it's not going to happen now, but like back when I was dating, right? Say that I was dating, going on a date and meet this nice lady, and then we do some things, right? And then I get AIDS, and then it come to find out she's the one that gave it to me, and then I'm like, yo, girl, you gave me AIDS, right? And she's like, yeah, I've had AIDS for a long time. I got it from some other guy, and now you got it too. Like, to me, dead. Like, I probably wouldn't murder her because I don't have that in me, but like, I would not be the least bit sad if she, like, we're like walking down the street and all of a sudden, like, she trips into the street and gets hit by a bus. Like, I'm not going to be sad about that. Like, I'm going to be like, hell yeah, dude. But whatever, So a little overreaction to think that all women should deserve to die. I think that's a bit excessive. Yeah, because like, here's the thing, man. All women, at least the ones that don't have AIDS, you need them in order to keep the world spinning and to keep, population going and whatnot, because women have babies, right? You got it. So, I don't know, man. Lack of critical thinking. Guy's probably not all there mentally already. But whatever, that's the decision he made. And so over the next 9 months, 5 black women were discovered bludgeoned to death on the Riet River near Pretoria, South Africa. Police initially thought the murders belonged to Elias Chalk, another serial killer in Pretoria who had raped and murdered 5 women, which we're not going to talk about. It's pretty standard run-of-the-mill guy. They thought that those murders belonged to Elias Chalk until they realized that he was already in prison and he could not have committed this set of murders. And so police at that point quickly ran out of leads and just gave up. Like, it's not like they tried to find new leads. They were just like, yeah, our guy didn't do it. That's weird. Oh, well, what are we going to do now? I don't know. However, unbeknownst to them, Nyauza had already been arrested that September for attempting to rape his girlfriend's 9-year-old daughter. Why? Why? And after sitting in jail for 3 years awaiting trial on that, he was found not guilty in November of 2005 and released. 5 weeks later, he returned to murdering women because he still hadn't gotten over that. And he's probably even more mad at the 9-year-old girl for accusing him of rape and sending him to prison because it seems, to be the pattern. Anyway, in each instance, Nyauza would lure black women to him by offering them jobs, only to rape and murder them once they were in a secluded location. Although he initially bludgeoned his victims to death with stones and wooden planks, he transitioned to strangling or stabbing them with a screwdriver, which is it's not a stabby tool. You need something a little sharper. Like on the spectrum of stabbiness. That's what we're going to call it. Verbal trademark. Knife, dagger, something like, scythe, even if you want to be Amish about it. That's the green zone for stabbiness, right? Screwdriver, it's pointy, yeah. Whether it's a Phillips head or a flat head, it's fine. Now, if you're trying to do star head or Allen head, like, that's weird. That's very flat. It's flat. It's blunt. It's not going to do any good. But I mean, like, I guess it's better than like trying to stab someone to death with a highlighter, So like, highlighter is very soft and squishy, even though it's a good shape for stabbing, bad tip for stabbing. Anyway, you get it. But like, highlighter worst, all right? Screwdriver, not great. Pencil, owie, but you can really get in there with that because it's a point. It's a real pointed edge. And then knife. So like, I don't know. Either way, he's doing what he can, you guys. He strangled his next victim on January 2nd, 2006, with police quickly linking this murder to the previous 5 because of its similar location along the Riet River. Police then let Nyauza murder 5 more women before finally forming a task force to actually catch him. Despite finding his semen on 4 of the 16 bodies they had found so far, they weren't able to find a DNA match, even though Nyauza had given a DNA sample after his arrest in 2002. On August 17th, 2006, Nyauza approached a pregnant woman standing outside of the police station in Magaliesburg, 50 miles west of Pretoria. She told Nyauza that she was traveling just across the border to Botswana, so he offered to just give her a ride, which she then accepted. Bad idea. After stopping at a farm to drop off some ostrich feed, Nyauza drove down a dirt path and stopped his car. He then got out, walked around to the passenger door, opened it up, and stabbed this woman in the chest with a screwdriver, which, again, crazy. That's really gotta hurt. I don't know why I'm so hung up on that. He then robbed her, tied her up with her shoelaces, and threw her in a ditch. As the woman pleaded with him to stop, he then stabbed her in the forehead, again with the screwdriver. When she screamed out in pain, Nyauza scolded her for having the nerve to make noise at a time like this. Like, you just stabbed this poor woman in the head with a screwdriver. Of course she's going to scream out in pain. And then this dickhead is just like, yo, dude, why you gotta be so loud? That's so rude. And you're probably going to attract some attention. And like, I'm trying to murder you and you're making it really difficult. He then strangled her with a nightgown, stabbed her in the neck, again with the screwdriver, and removed her underwear before driving off. However, this woman somehow survived, although her unborn baby did die, and she was left blind in her left eye. On September 5th, after Nyauza had committed another murder, police realized they had actually found a DNA match. Even worse, this match had already been in the system for 4 years, but had gone completely unnoticed because the South African government didn't actually require anyone to monitor their DNA database. Unsurprising. Police then waited another 2 weeks before camping outside of Nyauza's house to wait for him to return and of course he committed another murder during that time span. After tracking cell phone pings approaching the house, they finally saw two men walking in their direction, which turned out to be Nyauza and his brother. Nyauza was arrested while police searched the home and found the belongings of more of his victims. He quickly confessed to all of the murders, including that of another man that he did in a contract killing. Despite the confession, though, at the trial, Nyauza pleaded not guilty. However, 18 witnesses testified against him, including the one woman who survived the attack. And during her testimony, this dickhead laughed at her the entire time she testified, that's a crazy psychotic move. When it came time for Nyauza to testify, he claimed that police had drugged him instead of giving him his HIV medication, which caused him to point out the 7 locations of his murders. That's not how any of that works. When the judge asked him why his semen was found on several of the victims, he claimed it was because he was, quote, a man of exceptional sexual prowess who had slept with a lot of women, and that it was just a little unfortunate that, some of them turned up dead. I don't know what you're doing. Oh, Your Honor, I lay some dick, dude. Like, I'm just clapping some cheeks out there. And look, when you clap as many cheeks as I do, sometimes people are going to turn up dead just because sometimes they just don't associate with the right crowd, dude. And I can't help that, bruh. Mr. Nyauza, don't you also have AIDS? It's beside the point, dude. Still laying some wood, still clapping some cheeks, bruh. Anyway, he was eventually found guilty of 16 murders and was given 16 life sentences. Our final story, thank God. In 2012, Cecilia Steyn decided to join Overcomers Through Christ because she needed to be delivered from the clutches of Satanism. However, Cecilia and the group's leader, Raya Grunewald, didn't get along with each other, and Cecilia decided to form her own rival group, Electus Per Deus, with her sister Miranda and her friends Zach and Michaela Valentine. But rather than the standard gossip and politicking that normally comes with rival Christian groups, Cecilia wanted to take it a bit further. So, on July 2nd, 2012, Cecilia placed homemade bombs underneath the cars outside of an Overcomers Through Christ meeting, but the bombs were spotted before they could ever be detonated. A couple of days later, on July 11th, they successfully detonated bombs near cars at another Overcomers Through Christ meeting. And then a few days later, they set fire to the Lighthouse Christian Center in Randburg, South Africa. But this passive-aggressive sort of terrorism was not enough, and because Cecilia really hated Raya Grunewald and wanted to take her out. She tried to accuse Natasha Berger, another Overcomers Through Christ member, of praying the danger prayer, whatever that is, that resulted in the deaths of various children in the area. And guys, you know what? I think I just figured it out. Right? One of the biggest arguments that I hear a lot in the religious circles is, if God is real, why does he allow so much suffering? You know, how does he continue to allow everything that goes on in Africa? So much suffering and famine, so starvation, so many babies being born that are just suffer their entire lives. Children watch their parents get murdered and then they die of these wretched, painful diseases. How can a truly loving God let that happen? Well, clearly it's because somebody's praying the danger prayer. And I don't know who it is. Guys, what if the Lord's Prayer was actually the danger prayer? You know, like, or not even the Lord's Prayer, but like, what if, I don't even know what it's called, but the one where you go, God is great, God is good, let us thank him for our food. What if that's the danger prayer? And every time we say that prayer, we're just murdering, or at least allowing the murder of like hundreds of Africans. Or like we say that prayer and then like that's what allows, you know, Iran to launch a bunch of missiles against Israel or something. I think we figured it out. I think I've solved it. I think we need to stop saying those prayers. And, you know, I mean, what's it going to hurt? You know, what's it going to hurt if we just stop doing that anyway? I don't know. Maybe it's the danger prayer. And maybe that's why so many bad things are happening. I don't know. Anyway, so Cecilia, she's trying to like infiltrate Overcomers Through Christ and get members to turn on their leader, Raya Grunwald. She accused Overcomer Through Christ member Natasha Berger of praying the danger prayer that resulted in the deaths of children in the area. She then convinced her friends, Zach and Michaela Valentine, that Natasha Berger needed to be killed. And without really questioning it, the Valentines broke into the home of Joy Boonzayer, which is one of Berger's friends, and forced her to write a note asking Berger to come visit her when she got off work. And when Berger arrived, the Valentines stabbed both Berger and Boonzayer to death. The following month, Zach Valentine and Cecilia Steyn's sister, Miranda, dressed themselves up as police officers and broke into the home of Reginald Bendixson, a pastor and close friend of Raya Grunwald's, who often gave lectures at Overcomers Through Christ meetings. Well, that dude was stabbed multiple times with an axe. That murder, though, became too much for Michaela Valentine, and she wanted out of this little murder cult that Cecilia had created. Cecilia, though, realizing that Michaela could expose them for all of their murder, convinced Zach and Miranda to kill her as well. She convinced this dude to murder his own wife. And so how he did it was he put a tranquilizer in his wife's coffee and then gave Miranda a set of keys to the house and let her and then Miranda's 14-year-old daughter Marcel into the house to bash Michaela's head with a blunt object and stab her to death once she had become incapacitated by the tranquilizer. Over the next 3 years, Cecilia's group Electus Per Deus kept quiet as Cecilia tried to figure out what to do next about Raya Grunwald. Unfortunately for them, they began running out of money, maybe because it was hard to get steady donations when your main platform is just murder and hating this other Christian group. Rather than get regular jobs to get income, Cecilia decided the only way to keep the group afloat was to commit insurance fraud and more murder. On November 27th, 2015, Zach, Miranda, and Marcel went to the home of Peter Meyer, a local businessman, and demanded money for a business venture, which is not how you get funding, by the way. When Meyer didn't have any money at the time, they just stabbed him and his wife to death. Unfortunately for the group, Meyer was their best bet for getting the funding they needed, but with him dead, they had to come up with another idea. And so that's when Cecilia decided that they needed to fake Zach's death in order to get the $3.57 million payout from his life insurance. Why they didn't get any, I don't know, maybe they didn't have life insurance on his wife that they had already murdered, but whatever. You live and you learn. So they befriended a guy named Jared Jackson, a street vendor, and the entire group, which had now been joined by a guy named John Barnard and Cecilia's son LaRue, left town in Zach's car. As they traveled, LaRue drugged and strangled Jared Jackson before stopping in the middle of nowhere, putting Jackson in the driver's seat and setting the car on fire. Now, why is that important? Because Jared Jackson was the dummy that they were going to say was actually Zach Valentine so they could get the life insurance payout. Also, I want to point out this is a real family operation, right? Because outside of basically Zach Valentine, everyone else in this group is related directly to Cecilia Steyn. Like, she's got her son involved, as well as her sister and her niece. Just crazy. This is just, listen, if my family came to me, like if my cousin came to me and was just like, hey, I'm leading this adult men's group. We like to go play golf on Saturdays, and, you know, to fund paying for all these green fees and cart fees, maybe we murder some people here and there to get their life insurance. But whatever. Are you up for it? Like, we need your help to murder some new people because we're running low on. Like, it's crazy. I would not. I would be like, no, leave me out of that, bro. So the next day, Miranda identified Jackson's body. So, like, they strangle Jared Jackson, this random street vendor, set the car on fire, and they go to authorities. Next day they come out, they identify Jackson's body as belonging to Zach Valentine, even though it's not really him. And Miranda quickly got the death certificate and submitted it to the insurance company, who in turn paid out the policy to Cecilia Steyn. Meanwhile, Zach had checked into the Herberg Hotel in Krugersdorp under the name Jacques de Villiers and later became a member of the Kia Kaha Ministries. Because, you know, like, that's all you know. Like, you just join a little Christian group and you go and join another one, even though you're supposed to be technically your own witness protection, I guess. I don't know. So with the bank account replenished, Cecilia returned her attention to killing more people. In each instance, the group would approach a random person and attempt to arrange a business meeting. And then from there, Miranda, LaRue, and Bernard would assault the victims, steal their debit cards, and withdraw all of the money before coming back to kill them. The group killed 5 more people doing this scheme before they were eventually arrested. And thanks to some shoddy South African media coverage, we don't really know how that all happened. Knowing them, they started talking to an undercover cop or something and tried to kill him. Anyway, I don't know. We don't know. Cecilia, Marcel, and Zach Valentine were all given life sentences, while the others were given pretty lengthy prison terms. Cecilia also never did get full revenge on Ria Grunewald. There are some documentaries about this case. They call it the Krugersdorp cult, which pretty accurate. I don't know if any of those documentaries are available on American streaming platforms, but I know probably the most prominent one is called Devil's Dorp, but it's on Showmax, which is like the South African streaming service. So I don't know, but maybe you can find it if you're super curious. There we go. South African serial killers in the books. And I'm not going to do what did we learn this week. I'm super tired. This episode was super bad. And we learned that Africans talk with a surfer bro accent, at least in my world. And that's it. That's all we learned, I think. I don't know how you would learn anything else from this episode. So next week, we are getting into serial killer sampler number 9 in this series, where we are going to be looking at the stories of Lemuel Smith, Richard Biegenwald, and Gennady Mikhailevich. So all over the world, but mostly United States and one Russia. So whatever. God, this is so bad. I'm going to get better. I promise. Next week's episode will be better. It has to be. Can only go up from here. So that's it. Thanks so much for listening to this. I don't know why you finished it, but thanks. Tell your friends about the show, just not this episode.
This is a podcast